Do you think, not playing too much of a forecaster, but like going into 25, based on what you've seen over 24, the trajectory of Ukraine developing its own ballistic missile, leveraging its, advantages with its, growing relationships with other European nations, what do you look at, and where do you think you could see the biggest gains for the Ukrainians?
Boy, that's a good question. Ballistic missiles, I yeah, that's a tough one. I don't know how much ballistic missiles could help with the fight because ballistic missiles are very expensive. Ukraine is a big country, but you still have to test that missile.
Mm.
And the second you test it, Russia's getting telemetry on that missile and what this thing can do. So that's kind of an issue. But when you're looking at like capabilities, it actually Ukraine's drone capabilities are only getting better, and they're only becoming better and better at actually implementing those capabilities. And it's almost like a bigger bang for your buck might be going toward drones that are using AI to navigate and detect targets, because something like a cruise missile might be, Russia can shoot down ballistic missiles. Ballistic missiles still have a place. If you have a very time-sensitive target, all right, this Russian general is at this location. We have 15 minutes to strike this guy. Let's fire a ballistic missile. Something like that is very useful for a ballistic missile. But you're not getting to Moscow with the ballistic missile. It will get shot down. You might be able to get to Moscow with a small drone, maybe not that small, with some sort of a homegrown cruise missile that has drone features. Yeah, you might be able to do that. But if you can set a bunch of robotic computerized killers loose on the battlefield, well, now you've just replaced your most precious resource, which is men. And it's almost like it would be easier for Ukraine to kind of focus on their core competencies, drones, AI, and integrate those two things together than it would be to just create another missile that might just get shot down.
Could you apply the same to the Russians? Because earlier on in the month, or whatever, crossover of the month, we had that Oreshnik missile that was obviously used. I mean, whether or not you believe, I had one guest on called Dmitry Alperovich, and he said these are not new missiles. It's one that was first, shall we say, released or sort of showcased at the beginning of 2011, 2010 or something.
Yeah, it was the R. It was really a version of the Oreshnik. Was really the R-26.
Yeah,
and the reason they used didn't even use warheads in that thing. They used inert warheads, and that was because in order to let me back up even more. The Oreshnik is really an intermediate range ballistic missile, which technically was part of the intermediate range ban treaty, but I think Russia pulled out of that treaty, and I believe the U.S. also pulled out of that treaty. I think people are going to be yelling at me.
2018, Trump pulled out of it in 2018, and then the Russians followed.
So with the intermediate ban treaty, this missile, it's kind of interesting to even have this thing. It kind of makes sense because I guess it could strike Europe. But in order to hit something, in order to cause an explosion with something going that fast, going Mach 10, you have to start that explosion fairly high up. So it's not like this missile is going, or the warhead is going so fast that even chemical explosions take time. All right. So the distance those chemicals might actually be traveling as the warhead is exploding, that might have to start like a kilometer above the actual target. Like, let's start the process of detonating. So in order to do that, you have to have very accurate fuses. And I'm not sure that Russia has the capability right now to develop, like push money into such a, I don't want to say esoteric, but such a niche weapon, right? Like, this is something where we might only use once. Let's just try to scare people that there might be a nuclear war, and we'll go with that. So that might have been like that might have been the reason why they used these inert warheads. They just literally didn't have anything that could actually explode because it would have required a complete redesign of the weapon.